The following episode of the Community Workbench podcast is brought to you by yours truly, Matt Norn, Remax Bell Park Realty. For all of your real estate needs, commercial, residential, and otherwise, give me a call, 860-428-6534. Your dreams are my job. Welcome to the Community Workbench. This is Matt Norn and Kyle Morrissey. We are your hosts of the #1 podcast in my basement. Every week, we bring you small businesses, entrepreneurs, community leaders, charities, and pretty much whoever we feel like talking to. And this week, we feel like talking to Tim and Tom Bassett from the Bassett Sugarhouse in Canterbury. Morning, guys. What's happening?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Not much. Okay, we can go now.
You can talk first. All right.
So
that's
Tim
enough.
is in green, Tom is in black. I'm going to get that messed up.
I know. I feel like you guys should have name tags or something.
That's actually a great idea.
That's a good idea. So first and foremost, you guys have a open house, your annual open house, March 2nd at 10 a.m. That's a week from today. So we want to make sure that we plug that many times today and get it into people's heads that
Okay,
get out there.
We appreciate that. It's awesome.
we'll plug that.
Sure.
Yep.
As we always start out, kind of like the origin story, or you can give us some background on yourselves and kind of how you led up to wanting to draw sugar out of trees, or whatever the beginning is. Start there.
The beginning. In the beginning. How do you start? How do we start?
Well, I started a little backyard thing, couple pans over a wood stove, wood fire out back. Ruined my wife's favorite pan. she never has let me down. I mean,
Not yet.
let that go. She still reminds me that I ruined her lasagna pan. But ever since, well, it's been 30, 35 years. And I
Wow.
started making about a gallon a year. And I was like, that's plenty for me. I got enough trees in the backyard that's good. And then Brother Tim come up to me one day.
Yeah, I was in Hebron, Connecticut, and this other sugar maker was selling his old evaporator. He was buying a new one. He's selling the old one. So I saw that, and a light went off. I go running home. Tom, I got this idea. Let's go partners. I said, no, it's not a good idea. It's a great idea. And we got the evaporator. We set it all up in the backyard, and we put a tarp over it and such.
I remember that.
We grew from there.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had like a dog kennel that we put A-frame roof on it and threw a tarp on it. That was our sugar house.
Yeah.
For quite a while, almost 10 years we were in that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we finally said, yeah, I think we've been in this long enough that it's pretty serious. Let's build a building.
Yeah.
So we built a building that, that was fun actually building it. And we had a lot of, help from the family.
Yeah.
The nephews and all our kids and everybody got involved in some way, and it just kind of brought us all together.
Yeah.
So,
Nice.
and that was what was most important to us, is that, this brings the family together when people don't normally get together that much. So, so it was fun, it was fun building it. And it's fun, even now, just every so often you don't know who's going to drop in,
Yeah.
come in and visit.
Yeah, that's awesome. I can remember. So I met Tim when we worked at Niantic Awning together.
Way back.
Way back. I remember what started the conversation for me was in Tim's tool belt, he had a tap. And I had no idea what
Yeah.
it was.
Oh,
I was
yeah.
like, what is it? It fell out of your pouches or whatever. And I was like, what is this? And he was like, oh, that's a maple syrup tap. And I was like, oh, and he started explaining it to me, and it had the hook on it to hook
For
the
the bucket,
buckets and
yeah.
stuff. And then, I don't know, we came across some pine wood, because that's what you guys burn for the evaporator and whatnot. And
Yeah.
I would drop some off for you. And I remember seeing this said dog kennel and sugar shack, and we always had jokes where you guys get sent out to the doghouse at
Yeah.
night.
It's still the doghouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it's this beautiful post and beam building that you guys built, and you got the vents up top, and you got the
Oh yeah, the
pulley
cupolas.
system to open
Oh yeah,
the cupola and
we got
everything.
creative.
Yeah.
It's one thing when you're out in the night and you're boiling, you're making syrup. It's a lot of long hours, and
Yeah.
you just sit there and think, and you start thinking more, and then thinking more, and then you come up with new creative ways of coming up with new ideas.
Yeah.
So you don't just build the sugar house. If you visit the sugar house, well, first thing is the sugar house was built right from scratch.
Yeah.
The neighbor was cutting down trees that were down by the power lines. They were clearing for the power lines. He didn't want the wood because you can't burn pine in your house.
Yeah.
So he gave us the wood. We took it to the sawmill. He sawed it down, and we made the timbers and the siding and everything from that.
Nice.
So that's where that came from. And then when we went to build it, Tom buys a book. He's out taxiing and he finds this book on how to build pole barns. So every weekend we come over to work on the sugar house, build the sugar house. And he says, Tim, you got to look at this. And we open the page and it's this really cool looking dove joint or some kind of joint. He says, we got to do this. So we would spend the rest of the week making that joint and putting that one up. So then I come back next Saturday and he turns the page. Oh, Tim, you got to look at this one. So every post in that sugar house has a different joint. Every
Yeah.
one. It's pretty cool, but it's like,
That's
Well, that was
awesome.
fun though. I like that.
You learn.
I learned a lot, but now my age, I can't remember anything.
That's funny. And then, like you were talking about the trees that you tap now. If I'm not mistaken, it's hundreds of trees now that you guys draw from, right? How does
Yeah.
that work? Because you own a certain amount of acreage, and then you used to get permission to draw on other people's land. Right?
Exactly.
So, talk to me.
So that's
about
what we
that.
do now is we have a friend of ours down in Hanover that got nearly 200 taps, but he has no way of boiling it. So he brings the sap over for us, and we work out a deal with him.
Yeah.
A trade. We will finish so much syrup per how many gallons you give us, that
Right,
kind of
right.
thing. And then we have another friend in town that has, a original pipeline, including a bunch of buckets that he's put out. So with that all together, we have about 150 taps out over there.
Wow.
And then in my yard, the trees have gotten a little bit bigger. We got close to 50
50 now.
taps just in my yard that we try to collect from. So, it's not huge. It's not a big, like a Vermont operation, but it's enough to keep us busy. And both of us work full time, so
Right.
we had to, like Tim was saying one time, we need to draw a line in the sand. We need, we
Yeah.
can't be out here till 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning boiling, and then get up at 4 o'clock and go to work, So we
Right.
need to, level it off. So, so with the evaporator we have now, and the sap coming in, we can keep up with it. I think we finished up 116 gallons last night, and we were done by, was it about 9 o'clock?
9:30.
Oh,
Yeah.
beautiful.
I was home at 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we don't have the RO system that takes a lot of the water out of the sap
Mhm.
prior to going into the evaporator. We don't have vacuum systems to use. Everything we do is really kind of old school.
Right.
Everything is gravity feed, and just kind of a natural way of doing it.
Yeah.
So it's definitely slower,
yeah, it's old school. It's
We
that-
still use
that-
wood
yeah.
to burn,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, fossil fuels are expensive, like propane, and
Oil.
oil.
through the
Is that
roof,
what you
yeah.
buy one of those and it can be running on oil?
Well,
Yes.
they
Oh,
do
wow.
have them. And I know another sugar maker, and he didn't produce this year because oil prices were too high.
Oh wow. Yeah.
They
So-
went up. He says it doesn't make any sense now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm sure just cleaning up your forest, cleaning up the land that you draw from is probably plenty of wood almost, right? I mean,
Well, like like you
Yeah.
had mentioned before, a lot of times we use softwood to burn.
right, and not many people have a use for the
And the
for a
reason
lot
we
of that,
use that
so.
is because you get flame out of it.
Right, you get.
So the gases, when
Ah.
it off gases, you get flame.
Yeah.
So when the way the arch is built, with a full draft going, it blows a flame through that our evaporator that's like a blowtorch.
Hmm.
That's you know 12 inches wide, just blasting it. We do mix it with some hardwood, but hardwood normally creates more coals,
Okay.
not as much fire.
Right,
So
right.
that's why we kind of burn
Yeah, it's a
the
slow
pine.
burn versus a fast burn.
Yeah.
You need the heat. Is there any limit? Can you burn it too fast? And is that what happened to your wife's pan?
Well, when the syrup gets to a certain point, and it's syrup, it's syrup, and it's so close to being syrup, it's a flash point. If you go a little bit over it, it foams on you, and then when it foams, it quadruples in size, leaks all over the place,
Hmm.
and cools off, and turns back into syrup again. So
Yep.
you got this mess, and if that burns to your pan, that stuff you need a chipping hammer to get it off
Oh,
the
wow.
pan,
Yeah.
or a grinder or something,
Yeah, I bet.
because that sugar when it bonds to that pan, oh, what a mess.
Huh.
And I've done it a couple times, but you would think I'd learn after about 30 years, but I still
How do you say boomer?
yeah. If you remember the 60s, you didn't live them.
That's awesome.
I don't remember.
Me either. What's your name?
Now, when I went to your open house, you guys had like different stations and different family members were kind of
Yes.
coaching people through like the years and the progression of collecting sap and boiling it down. You guys had even some like very rudimentary pans that like out of wood that I forget how that all worked, like how they boiled. I don't know. And you told the
Okay.
myth of how or why we got maple syrup, and then
Yeah, well,
or,
okay. When you talk
or
about
the
the wood,
legend, I guess.
yeah, now you talk about the Indians and how they produce maple, because the Indians were the ones who introduced sugar to us.
Gotcha.
So now the myth, the stories are handed down from the Indians are one. There's a few stories. One of them is that this Indian chief had done something wrong, and his wife was furious at him, and took a tomahawk and threw it at him, missed, and it stuck into a tree. Well, it was a maple tree, and it dripped into a vessel that they happened to have laying there, and it collected the sap that dripped out of the tree. Well, that night she was going to boil a bird for dinner, and she used that water that was in that vessel. And they found it being very sweet and all, and that's how they caught on to the sweetness in a maple tree. And I don't believe that story for a moment, because honestly, I don't think she would have missed. So, and the other story is about the great creator had come upon the Wakamam tribe, which is north near Canada, and he grew great favor on these Indians as his children because they worked so hard and they kept a good site and they always harvest food and there's a good loving family. So as a gift, he gave them maple syrup. And all they had to do was break off a branch and it would come out so sweet. It was like candy. And he leaves. He comes back later and he can't find his people. They're not there. The campsite, the fires are out. There's no wood harvested. There's no food put away. There's nothing. Everything's just left where it was. And he's looking for his people. What happened to his people? And he finds them all on the edge of a bank. They all had broken twigs off on the maple trees and were just laying underneath the trees, catching the droplets as it fell down. And he was so furious, so mad at these people that he caused it to rain. And it rained so much that it diluted the syrup so much that now we have to boil it down this far in order to get maple syrup.
Oh, yeah.
So that might be true.
And the season's kind of after the winter harvest and everything. So,
Yes.
like you get all your hard work, and then over the winter, yeah, you get a treat.
But I think the most real story is that there was just just an Indian boy walking through the forest and he was thirsty and he saw an icicle hanging down and he broke it off and he noticed that one was sweeter than that one. So that's what he looked for, was for that maple tree icicles.
Now, why is it that maple trees have that sweeter, and if you boil down what an oak tree bleeds, it's nowhere near as good, or is it even edible?
No, it's not. The maple has an epidural layer in it, much like we do.
Okay.
And the maple is able to produce an amount of sugar, which is its energy source, and it will store that in the epidural layer. Oak trees and birch trees don't have that.
Okay.
I think birch do.
They have a flavor, but you can't get the sap from 'em. What they do is they boil the bark to get the flavor.
Oh, okay.
Oh, so
I've heard of
birch
that.
beer,
Yeah.
Birch.
they
and all that.
they burn the actual bark.
Yes.
Yeah. Gotcha.
So,
Huh.
but now every maple tree there are, and there's over 200 different varieties of maple now because of different crossbreeds and such.
Yeah.
They all produce sap. They all do.
Wow.
Some produce more than others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And is there a limit to, like, when you go to tap a tree? Is it, if it's too small? Is there a too small? Is there a too big? Is there?
Yeah, there's a rule of thumb that we follow, and it's you know known throughout. You know, maple producers just follow this rule. So the smallest would be like a 10-inch tree,
Okay.
which would be a tree that's about 40 years old,
Wow.
and it would be you would put one tap per 10 inches of diameter on
Okay.
a tree. So if you have a 20-inch diameter tree, you put two taps on it, and so on.
Okay. And you can't tap the same spot every year, right?
No, the tree actually heals itself up, creates like a football, knot,
Yeah.
so to speak, in that area. So you have to stay 3-4 inches away from that tap.
Year after year.
Yeah.
You just cycle them.
So you can tap a tree anywhere from 2 feet above the ground to 6 feet high.
Gotcha.
We've accidentally gone a little higher than 6 feet. A couple years ago when we had that blizzard, we were out there on snowshoes tapping trees right about the snow, where we could reach. And then when the snow melted, we were about 8 feet high. We needed a step ladder.
You need a ladder to try to pop the taps out.
That's
yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
That is cool.
But things like that happen. But we still got sap. But
Yeah.
that's
there-
the general rule.
Yeah. Is there a date that starts the sap season? Like when do you have to have your taps in by a certain time, or is there no telling? Is it?
Well, the season starts when it starts to warm up. So when you got the evenings are in the 20s and the days are in the 40s, that's ideal.
That's ideal.
So you
okay.
need to watch the weather and see, if you can get out there and get things cleaned up and get things tapped. And if you get the time to do that, if you can get it ahead of time, that's even better.
Yeah.
But you got to remember that if you do it too early, your taps will dry up.
Oh, okay.
So, so it's a,
So it's a
you got to
balancing
time it.
act. Yeah.
Yeah.
Timing
And
game.
every year is different. You never know what the weather's going to be like in New England.
Yeah.
That's why the weatherman's usually wrong.
Yeah.
Uh,
This year was a little early.
Okay.
We started early this year because the weather pattern was perfect for
Oh,
the
okay.
maple season.
So is it a good season this year?
It started
Yeah.
out with a bang.
A lot of production.
Yeah. Then, if you remember last week, it turned real cold. Everything froze up.
Okay.
So
And that's a good example of what I mean about the 20s at night and the 40s during the days. Last week it was in the teens. It
Yeah.
All the time.
didn't thaw out
Right.
until 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And by 4 o'clock, the sun is going down. It's stopping the run. So we got a little bit of sap. I mean, you would think that was ideal, but it wasn't.
Gotcha.
It was frozen too much.
Yeah.
So it wasn't allowing it to thaw enough to get the
To
draw.
flow. Yeah. Now, is it now that it's warming up, it'll flow? Now,
We're-
like this week?
Yeah,
Or-
we're expecting it to
Okay.
hit pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it just kind of has ebbs and flows even through the season. Never mind season to season.
Yeah.
exactly.
That's
Well,
wild.
that's one thing that's neat about doing this for a hobby is you really find yourself in contact with nature.
Yeah.
You realize the weather patterns more because you depend on the weather patterns. You realize what the trees need to survive in the wilderness. The maple tree needs a real winter to go dormant, and then it needs a real summer to produce to grow again.
Yeah.
It needs those distinctions. So
Yeah.
when they talk a lot about global warming and whatever happening with our environment, we feel that we're really in tune to it. This is the first time ever we were producing maple during the Super Bowl.
Oh, really?
So
Okay. Because that was that early.
it was that early.
Okay.
Usually it's not till after Valentine's Day.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
so it was down
Wow.
at Sugarhouse making maple syrup and watching the Super Bowl on my little smartphone.
Oh, okay. I was wondering if you guys installed a TV in there.
We try, but we're this close to Wi-Fi. It just doesn't quite reach the Sugarhouse.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And is there, other than the evaporator, is there any other heat in your sugar house?
We have a wood stove in there.
You do have a wood stove.
Yes.
Okay.
We have a wood stove, and we just started using a propane heater this year.
Okay.
Helps make it a lot more comfortable.
Yeah.
Sugarhouse is notoriously cold.
Yeah.
I mean, you got a big burner and the bigger than this, twice as big as your bench here, cooking away with this jet flame going through it,
Yeah.
and yet you have a hole in the roof,
Roof.
the same size. So there's no heat inside. It's notoriously cold. Yeah.
I remember you guys had a certain way of keeping warm.
Tradition.
And I didn't know if you guys wanted to have a toast today.
What time is it? Oh, it's 6 o'clock at night. Holy cow!
5 o'clock.
No pressure, but if Kyle brings out the glasses, I'll start pouring.
Too
I-
funny.
Yeah, I remember there being a couple of vessels of this stuff.
Blackberry, yeah. Yep.
One time, my wife did say something like, "I know you guys are doing it. I know it. I don't know where you're hiding it, but I know it's out there."
That's so funny. And now you can say, well, we were having a Super Bowl party.
So do you guys know what a maple cortados is?
A maple cortados.
Gwillem. I don't. There.
Oh,
yeah. We
Two
had.
Dogs Coffee.
Yeah, from Two Dogs Coffee. Maple cortados. I don't know if it's a pastry or a drink or what.
I don't know.
I don't know.
All right.
No.
Try that out.
Yeah, so when we do our open house, we do like what I like to call a hayride in history. And like Tim was saying, it starts off with the Indians, and then it goes into early settler time, a representation of the 1600s
Yeah.
and how they did it, what they used for equipment, why they did it, and what it was used for. And then we go around to, around the 1800s, 1900s, early 1900s, more of a shack setup and a different pan, a flat pan, just to represent that time period. And then we go into a little bit about the history about that. And then we come back around, and near the end of our hayride, we have a pipeline to show them how it's, kind of done now. Of course, we don't have some of the equipment that is used, like the vacuum systems and such. But at least it gives them an idea of, how things progress.
Right. Yeah.
Through time.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was talking
Some
about.
interesting
earlier. It's super interesting to me. I love that kind of stuff, and
Yeah.
the fact that you guys have like so much like passion for that and the history of what you're doing. And I mean, did you guys have family members in past generations that did this, or
My wife's family.
okay?
Like we were talking earlier about Sugar Hill, and my wife's family was a large producer of maple syrup up there.
Yeah.
So I think that's the only connection we have really
Yeah.
is through that.
Except for when I first started, we had friends up in New Hampshire
Yes.
by the cabin that had a small sugar house,
Okay.
and it just interested me.
Yeah.
So I went and talked to him, and he gave me little pointers and what to do, and so then I just started that backyard thing.
Yeah.
It's a neat hobby. I had a friend stop by the other day, asking questions, and I love that. I love
Right.
it that
Yeah.
a guy wants to spend some time with his kids, quality time, and just do something interesting. It requires work, but it's fun.
Right.
It can be fun.
Yeah.
So I love that. So I'm giving him filters. I'm saying, well, if you need this, let me know. I
Yeah.
mean, I want to encourage that kind of thing. That's how we started. It was, and even the kids now, they're like, well, they're not kids anymore, young men,
Yeah.
and they're like, yeah, we've always liked this.
Yeah. You guys have a big family, right? You guys,
All of us combined, yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, your family, your 5 siblings is what it was. You guys grew
There
up
was
with
7.
7 of you.
Seven of
Wow.
us, yeah.
I knew it was like a lot. Yeah.
Christmas was great.
Yeah. And then of course people multiply.
Yeah.
And now there's like tons of cousins and nephews and stuff. And I always, whenever I got to your house to hang out, or even at your house in Wyndham, it just that family vibe is always there. And then going to open house and seeing all the different stations and all the different family members running the stations and helping out and stuff. That was just
Yeah,
super
they
cool.
all
Yeah.
they all get involved, and it's
Yeah.
yeah, that's the fun of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's always been.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
always
awesome.
been. That's our business model, friends and family. Let's keep it simple.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah.
And
How
then-
often? Sorry.
I
So,
was go ahead.
so I drive by on Route 6 in Rhode Island, in Situate. They have a bunch of maple lines, and trees constantly fall and branches and take them out. How often does that happen to you guys? Because I assume how healthy the area and the trees that you're doing it in makes a difference. But how often you guys have to it knocks everything out and you got to redo it?
You maintain the lines through the whole season anyway. You're always watching.
Yeah.
So if I stopped at one pipeline and I got 75 gallons yesterday, and I go by there today and there's only 10, then I know something's up and I got to go check out that line again. And it might be a branch broke down on it or something.
Yeah.
So
How
Yeah.
long's do you guys have a main line that everything comes into?
that's
Or-
how you do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So you'd have a main line coming down. It's only 3/4 inch pipe.
Yeah.
And then you have a smaller tubing that goes from the tree, will connect into that main line. Each one will feed in. So you're only getting a few drops from each tree, but at the end of the main line, it's a nice little flow.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you guys have big tanks for your pickup trucks, right? That
Yes.
you pump into.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
that's how we're gathering it now.
Yeah. And then,
So now up north, their biggest problem isn't the branches. They're up north. The biggest problem is the moose.
Oh.
The moose will come walking through, and they don't care. They just walk right through, and
Yeah.
they'll tear everything down.
yeah.
Or squirrels. The squirrels will come in because there's sweet water in there. They'll chew on that plastic line and
To
get some
get
sweet
to it.
water. Yeah.
Oh. Have you had that issue with squirrels? Because we
Yeah.
got squirrels. I've sat in the
I've
woods.
been
And they are the noisiest
Oh,
racket.
yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, we've had a few where they gnawed on the tap or
Yeah.
or that line. We'd have had to replace it.
Yeah, they get a taste for it and they know what's in there.
So when we put a main line out, the 3/4 inch pipe, that stays out there.
Okay.
So then we have other lines, like Tim said, that go to the trees, and we call those drop lines. And we flush out the system, at the end of the season, let it dry, coil everything up and cap it, and leave it right there. It stays out in the woods. So when we go in to retap again the next year, yes, we're checking for fallen branches, clean up the trail a little bit so we can get in and out. And then we tap everything back up again, and usually we're pretty good. Yeah, we take a look at the pipeline itself throughout the season to make sure nothing has fallen on it. And as you know, in this area, the oak trees are dying
Oh, yeah.
terribly.
Yeah.
So you're constantly, kind of watching for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, oak, ash. This area in Situate has a ton of pine trees, and they're just so tall, so they just keep snapping.
Oh yeah.
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 Yep.
Got a lot of new. I mean, there's the ash boring beetle there that's
Yep.
been a plague to
Yes.
the ash, and
The gypsy moth went up.
yeah, the
Yo.
gypsy
Yeah.
moth, and then we had a
We have a longhorned beetle
yeah.
that's attacking the maples.
Wow. And then we had the heavy rains one year. Did you guys? There was one of my neighbors does it, and he said he let it rest that year, where it was like It was like an extra moss on all the maple trees, on the north sides of all the maple trees. And he was like, I'll just let them rest this year. I don't know. Did you guys see that or feel that a few years back?
Well, I heard reports on it. We didn't have it in our area.
Nice.
Yeah,
Knock on wood.
because we're looking, saying like, "Boy, if that moves in here, where are we gonna go?"
Yeah. Yeah. Huh. Super interesting to, I mean, you're dealing with Mother Nature. So it's
Yes.
kind of like you got to play by her rules.
So Willem commented though. So the maple cortados is a coffee drink. So it's equal parts coffee, milk with a dollop of maple syrup.
Oh, okay.
You guys are coffee drinkers. Do you put maple syrup in your coffee when you're out there?
He makes maple sugar.
So I make candy,
Yeah.
Oh,
and anytime I make the candy, if it breaks when I take it out of the mold, it goes in the sugar bowl.
Okay.
You know, so I'll have that with my coffee.
you mean when it breaks, right?
Yeah.
There's always some that
Some
break.
of the kids, when I'm making the sugar, they hover like vultures. They're waiting for me to break a candy so they can claim that one. You know.
Yeah, we love maple candy. Anytime we go up to New Hampshire or Vermont, we always come back with some. Yeah.
Now, I remember you guys had a couple of really good years at one point, and you actually had a cotton candy maker. You made maple cotton candy. Is that still a thing? Does that still happen?
Well, no,
Uh-huh.
it was good.
Yeah.
It was good, but there was just they had so much going on, so
Yeah.
many people, so many volunteers, and then trying to do it outside where the wind picks up. Cotton candy was blowing everywhere.
Yeah, that's
First
got to
time-
break your heart, all that hard
The
work.
first time we made maple cotton candy was at what was it, like a craft show or a craft fair thing at the
That's
in
right.
town, right?
At the school.
At the school. It was the first time I never run the cotton machine before in my life. I got this idea. So, how do I get these ideas? So I started making it, but I didn't know what I was doing, and I had cotton candy flying through the air inside this craft fair. But all the kids would come and get some, and it only got a little bit, but we sold it to them anyway. Okay, I'm not proud.
I'm starting to see the dynamic here. We got the dreamer
And the schemer. Okay?
No, we got the dreamer and the one that kind of holds the fort down.
It's
You
not
can't have two
always that
dreamers.
way.
You can't have two dreamers. You'll be broke in an hour.
Yeah. We trade places every so often, but usually my dreams don't pan out so
Yeah.
good. So.
But we are broke.
And to that, here's the maple syrup, guys.
There you go.
Thank
Here.
you.
Yep.
I believe that was your first sip of maple syrup. I mean,
It was.
It's a
blackberry
sipper,
brandy.
It's a sipper, not a shooter.
It's good. It does warm you up.
Great price.
Yeah. There you go. That's so funny. Tim, I wanted to bring this up because you probably not knowingly planted a seed when we worked at Niantic Awning. We spent a lot of time on the truck and installing and talking a lot. And one morning you came in and you were kind of distraught. And one of the reasons, I don't know if one of your kids or nephews or somebody was playing a sport and they had a meeting because the refs were not going to be reffing for that league anymore. They had for obnoxious parents or something that ref league was or that ref association was like not going to referee for that. And I'm seeing that blank look. I don't think you recognize it.
Well, I'm remembering that.
Yeah.
It was,
Okay. So
yeah.
okay, good. So you came in and you said, "Family."
Well, really, when you said, Tim, I was going to bring this up, I thought, oh my God, he's going to. I owe him $5 with the interest. In my mind, the blank look is I'm doing the math. Let's see, what's now 9% compounded over 20 years.
No, not at all.
Oh, sure. No, I don't owe you $5. Okay?
No, but when you came in, you were kind of distraught because one of your family members said, well, they need to find new refs. And you were like, who's they? We are they. We are the community. And
Yeah.
you were just distraught because it was kind of a thing about our culture where the sense of community was eroding. And
Yes.
people always are first to say, well, they need to do something about this, and just seeing that, that always stuck with me, and that was one of the seeds that started this, was
Really?
having that sense of community, and I wanted to thank you for that. It was
Oh, it's my
it was
pleasure.
a, it was a great, it was a great inspiration.
How much does he owe you?
Get $5, buddy.
But it was just one of those things where it kind of taught me, like, there's more than just yourself, your career, your family. There's a much bigger picture to look at and to consider when you're thinking about issues that are happening, because it's never a problem until it's a problem, and it's never a problem until it's a problem for you. So, like, and by then, community wise, it's probably too late, you know what I mean? So
That's well put.
so that was one thing that just I always thought about, and that was
See that?
gratitude for our
I'm
friendship.
inspirational.
Mark this down.
I think I need another drink.
You should,
I
you
inspired
should make
that
a
too.
new sweatshirt that has that I'm inspirational.
I'm a forward thinker.
Yes, you are.
Yeah, and you guys have just always paid it forward. You do the Boy Scouts and whatnot, and you've always been part of fundraisers for your church and stuff like that. It was just a cool thing to look up to when
Well, it's a good thing
we're
to do.
working. Yeah.
Well, like you were saying, we got Boy Scout, the Cub Scouts coming,
Cub
right?
Scouts, yeah. That'll be fun.
They're gonna come in, do a whole tour.
Yeah,
If-
yeah, and just before Kyle cut me off, I was going to plug
Thanks,
the open house at 205 Bingham Road in Canterbury on March 2nd from 10 to 3.
Yes.
Yep.
And the Boy Scouts are going to go there and take a look at it and learn, and that'll be cool.
Yeah, so we have a little plan for them. They're going to come a little bit earlier before a lot of people are there. Then I can do more of a personal tour for them, and we'll go around our history and then come back to the Sugarhouse, and we've got a setup so then they can actually help us bottle some of the syrup. So I got it planned out that, knock on wood,
Yeah.
that this works, but that they'll be able to bottle their own little bottle,
Oh,
Oh,
you
cool.
know, so each kid will have something that they were actually
Not
involved
cool.
in, not just watching water boil.
Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
More
Yeah.
interesting. to
That'll be
them.
awesome.
No, you guys will have stuff to purchase at the open house, syrup, I assume, and then
Yeah.
so cash, check, credit card. What do you guys accept, just so people know?
So
Cash, obviously. I would
yeah,
assume.
cash and
I was gonna
check,
pay in
but we are
hugs.
not.
Is that enough?
We're not set up for a credit card.
Not at all.
Yeah, we're not linked for that.
That's all right.
Okay, so cash.
Yeah.
Let's say.
Yeah.
Bring cash.
Bring
Yeah.
cash.
Okay, cool.
I was going to pay in hugs, but
Well,
No one wants that. From you. In fact, you should pay people.
Oh no, this is G-rated, right? No,
try to keep PG-13 or cleaner.
I got nothing to say.
that's
a first.
different.
Cheers, Tom. Oh, that's funny.
What do you think of the Cub Scouts? You know, there's a bunch of young boys running around. They got all the energy. We're gonna pump them up with sugar, and then we're gonna have them try to bottle some hot maple syrup, some hot liquid into a small container. This is gonna be a blast.
Oh, so now you're being practical. That's weird. We've switched places here between you and Tom. Throw caution to the wind.
Let's do it, right? Got the fire extinguisher, got ice.
Yeah, they're all set. Cold water. I'll have a cold water, bucket
Okay.
of cold water, so they can stick a hand in there if they get burnt. You know,
Yeah.
problem
Yeah.
solved.
First aid.
Safety third. As they say. Wow, that's awesome. I love what you guys are doing. The other thing I want to bring up, and I don't mean to keep doting on you, Tim, but there was another phrase that you used to say all the time. Good
Oh
conversation.
crap!
Well, on top of that was good conversation, and it was funny how, like, whenever we had a conversation with ourselves or like our boss or the clients, whatever you say. You used to kind of rate things, and there were times when we had conversations that went nowhere, and we had good conversations, and that was kind of like a standard, and that was just something else I always kind of remembered. Like this is a good conversation. It was like kind of like another thing I wanted to implement on community workbench. So
That's more important today. It's
Yeah.
more important today than
Yeah.
ever before.
yeah, I mean, with the culture of texting and commenting, you get nothing
Yeah.
out of that. And it's not good conversation. It's you know,
What's
the
a good
open forum.
conversation? You
Right.
know, it's a interchanging and exchanging of new ideas.
Mhm.
You know, I listen to your view, you listen to mine. Maybe we come out with a new view. I don't know.
Right.
Maybe you convince me to listen to you more, or the other way around.
Yeah.
People aren't doing that.
Right.
They're only in
Right.
the echo chamber,
Yeah.
and they won't listen to another idea. They
Yeah.
won't even consider the idea.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times I feel like people should at least pick up a phone and call someone instead of have a text conversation, because you see relationships ruined over it.
Yes.
You know? And it's like you got to talk, and you got to have that tonality, and it's lost in texting. So,
Yeah.
and that's like it just kind of brought up that standard of what's a good conversation versus what is something quick that you can text. And there are times for that, but there are other times where you need something like this
Yeah.
where you're talking
It
and
seems
seeing each other, seeing your reactions and whatnot. Have
younger
more
people,
of that human-
much rather text
right.
than really have a real phone conversation.
Yeah,
They can choose their words, and that's what they want to say.
yeah,
But no, you need to have that open.
yeah. And not to give you too much credit, I'm going to say I started working for you.
Yeah, his head's getting big.
I started working for you just after I was 25.
I gotta stretch out my headphones here, man. Wow.
Well, I started working for you just after I turned 25, so I had that's when your brain's fully developed. So I was like a little bit more coachable.
Your brain developed at 25. Wow.
That's what they say. That's
Some days I
average.
feel like you're
think
still
that's an
learning.
average. Oh yeah. I believe somebody called me for tech support this morning.
And then you handed me the phone.
Thank you, Cotton, for sharpening.
You're welcome.
Cotton number 2 over here. So yeah, there's that saying, "Iron sharpens iron," but we always say we're cotton sharpening cotton.
That's not very sharp.
So
you
you
get it.
understand.
He's a sharp cotton guy too. Oh man, good times, guys. Is there anything? People should obviously probably dress warm next Saturday. They should wear boots, not
Yeah.
stiletto heels. That it's outside. It's an outside activity and whatnot, right?
Yes. No, we don't know exactly how things are going to turn out weather-wise. Right now, the weatherman says maybe 45, 50 degrees that day. But also Thursday, we might be looking at some rain, so
So it could be muddy.
it could be muddy, or it could have dried up
Yeah.
in enough time to. So you don't know exactly. Dress as if you're going to hang out in your backyard.
Yeah.
So
Right.
it's the best way to do it.
Yeah. Okay.
I was going to add something to
Sure.
this now. One of the new things we added at our open house is I cook,
Yeah.
and I'll try to introduce food that we use maple syrup in, trying to encourage people to use maple in cooking. So last year I had some kind of like a maple glazed chicken, and I
Okay.
was serving that up. Before that, I did something with maple ginger pork loin, and I would hand out samples of that. This year, I'm going to do a pulled chicken slider with a maple barbecue sauce,
Wow.
and it's really easy. I'll have recipe cards out, but also what I do is I have a free will donation right there on the table for people who want a hot dog or something, and all that money that I receive from that, we donate to the soup kitchen.
Oh,
awesome.
that's
Not the
awesome.
soup kitchen. I'm sorry, because you don't have a soup kitchen in Canterbury. It's to
It's a food pantry.
the food
Food
pantry.
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 Oh,
Exactly.
great. What's their name? Do you know? Do we know? Canterbury Food Pantry.
Yeah,
That's what we're gonna
I
call
think
it.
that's what it's called. We have a contact. We're going to get a hold of them when we can here, but hadn't done it yet.
But you know how we talk about they is us.
Yes.
So when they
Yeah.
say, when somebody says we need to, the soup kitchen, the cabinets are running bare, they should do something about that. Well, let's do something about that.
Beautiful.
It's,
Yeah.
and this is one way.
Yeah.
The polar plunge is a way. Volunteering your time at the soup kitchen is a way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. And that goes right in line with as a community workbench, we're running the campaign, spread the love campaign through these.
you like that
cold
segue,
months.
huh?
That's great.
Paid professional.
Yeah.
We don't
and,
pay anybody, nor do we get paid.
Yeah. So I've been friends with people down at Friends of Assisi, the Danielson Food Pantry, for a long time, and they often talk about how these months, January, February, March, are always the lean months, and a lot of people give a lot during Thanksgiving and Christmas, and super grateful for it, but then things kind of die off this time of year, and for people in need, these are the hardest months because it's so cold,
Yes.
and they're just getting through a long, cold winter, and so one of the big things I wanted to do with this platform was to, bring light to that and just really push for people to just have that sense of community and thinking of neighbors. Kyle loves it when I say, love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, neighbors.
Scripture. So
Well, take in consideration the Willimantic soup kitchen,
Mm.
and they serve well over 1 million meals a year.
Wow.
Think of that, and you don't realize it. And I live in the
Yeah.
town, and I didn't realize that there are that many people coming around that much.
Yeah.
yeah, there's a couple. There's Paul's Soup Kitchen, and then there's another one. The church we used to go in Willimantic, they do one at. I don't know the name of the church, but right in Gilson Square, that big white
Yeah.
one. So we used to
Yes.
cook on Tuesday nights. So the church still does it, but we go to a different church that's more local. But yeah, there'd be 50, 60 people, and every night. So
Every
the
night.
different volunteer group would come and cook every single night for them, and they also do bag lunches and stuff. So
I know they are so appreciative.
Yeah.
You don't realize how much these people absolutely appreciate everything that's done for them.
Right. Right.
So the people will take heed to your call, and they
Yeah. I mean, the more we can do, the better. It's lowering the bar for the entry to success is really what most people need. Because we don't all start at the same place. I was blessed. I was born into a family that was at least at the very least middle class, and we had what we needed, and then some. And not everybody's born into a situation like that, and and then also there's always outside circumstances as you navigate through life that can set you back and whatnot. So yeah, I love it. I love that you guys are taking your hobby and raising money for other charities and whatnot. That's great.
Yep.
That's awesome. So, any other questions or any other things you want to talk about for maple syrup?
You want to add anything?
Okay.
You've been quiet all night.
Well, that's because you stole the stage again. You always do this to me.
Mama loved me best.
I know. No, I think that we covered it pretty well, actually.
Funny thing. I was just about to ask who's older, but you guys are twins, right?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So,
And I'm older.
By what, 10
That's
minutes?
why that's why I'm so much smarter. But Mom did always like him better.
special. Would you rather
We
broke
can
my
tell.
house? Timmy, stop licking the window.
Oh, that's perfect. So I want everybody to remember March 2nd at 10 to 3 p.m., 10 a.m. to 3 p.m., 205 Bingham Road, Canterbury, Connecticut, 06331. The Bassett Sugarhouse will be open for their open house, for education, for buying products with cash. They take donations. They have food samples. It's going to be an amazing event. So definitely, if you can, get out there. Also, the Community Workbench podcast family wants to remind everyone to spread the love. Remind everyone of our Spread the Love food drive campaign. If you can, consider donating foods and or other goods to Brooklyn Cares Community Center, Friends of Assisi Food Pantry in Danielson, the Daily Bread in Putnam, Teague and Thompson, Project Pin in Moose Up, the Canterbury Food Pantry, any of the soup kitchens in Willimantic. There's plenty of places. Give it a Google, and you can find one in your area for sure. Um, let's not let Eastern Connecticut go hungry during these cold and tough months. And of course, join us Monday, February 26th at 6 p.m. when we interview Adam, the owner of Chubby Dog Coffee Company. He's got coffee, games, a lounge, and he's multiplying. So we'll talk about that. And of course, join us on. I already said that. As always, buy local, hire local, volunteer local, and donate local. Have great days, everybody.